Hello and welcome to my channel. I am the Silver Wheel Witch. Today I'm here to do another flip through book review for you all. I'm actually really excited to do this one because I truly enjoyed this book. I got a lot out of it. The Path of the Moonlit Hedge, Discovering the Magic of Animistic Witchcraft by Nathan M. Hall. And it is published by Llewellyn. And let's go ahead and give you a close-up of the back. I was really impressed with this book. It's really a great book on animism and witchcraft in general. But it goes into certain areas, go into so much depth, and other areas really give you just enough information to really want to dive deeper or to like really get your thought process going. Let's see, this book was published in 2023, so it's a brand new book. I think it was earlier this year, maybe 3 or 4 months into the year when the book was released. And I actually got my copy in the first box of the Page of Cups from The Witch's Moon. I was really thrilled to get this book. And I believe this is his first book. I'm really looking forward to more books from this author because I really enjoyed his writing style. And this is really a simplistic breakdown of the contents because inside each one of these chapters there are a ton of little sections. I love it when authors do that. Makes the book really easy to read and pick up for a few minutes here and there. This is a book I ended up reading over a few months. But then he also gives the exercises. He's got a ton of exercises. Definitely a fan of books that give you some practical application for the information they're sharing. And it's also very much, in some parts, in a very storytelling format, which was really nice. So with that, we're going to go ahead and just flip through here. As you can see, I have a lot of tabs. So something I've started doing, I don't do this on all my books, but on books that I feel led to do it, I tab a bunch of information. So some of these sections, like this one here, are just sections that I'd like to go back and reread again. It had some really valuable information, or I really like the way it was written. You know, could be anything, but it was just worth marking the section. Then I have other things like this here where I just really got something out of the sentence, and or I'll highlight if it's something that was unfamiliar to me that I want to research more or dive deeper into. So this one, the sentence is, magic is the wondrous inheritance of humanity. Love the way you wrote that. And I firmly believe that we are living in an epoch in which it will become more apparent. And I just loved that. So marked that. And then other areas, I'll put a little bit more information. And so I wanted to go through and share it with you and show you what in this book stood out to me. I really found it to be a fantastic book. Hedge walking through animism. So my note through animism is that he really in this section touched on how much animism plays a role in the hedge walking. So I really liked that. Under this little animism section here, I actually highlighted this one for the word, for this part it says, let's see, the all that is, or if you're a Discordian, the void, which spawns Eris and Aneris. So there are different perspectives out there of void and what the void is, and I'm actually unfamiliar with the word Discordian. So this actually gives me a way to kind of dive deeper because I do work with void energy, but that's an area where I can learn more. So I love that. There's little tidbits throughout the book where you're like, oh, I want to learn some more about that. What is that? So I kind of love that about the book too. It's kind of like added on to, you know, what you're getting out of the book. This section here is the healing journey. So I'll just read you the note I have here. Wonderful chapter on shadow work and self-healing, which in my experience is a huge part of witchcraft and often the hardest part for new witches, yet rarely covered in this depth with meditations and practical application. This chapter alone makes this a great book for new witches. So those were just my thoughts as I was reading this chapter. Really, really was a great chapter. Then, what chapter was that? Chapter 3. Then at the end of that chapter, I wrote here that it's a great set of questions for self-evaluation. Yeah, so he gives you this big, long list. Pretty decent. I think it's just that page, what's on this page. But, yeah. But he's got some really good questions throughout the book. So you can really use this if you wanted to as a workbook with the questions and the practices and the exercises. I've just learned over the years that I like to read through a book first and mark them and make notes and then go back and journal or use it as a workbook and so forth. I just get a little bit more depth out of it that way. Let's see what we have here. Magic in its earliest form is often referred to as the art. I believe that this is completely literal. I believe that magic is art, and that art, whether it be writing, music, sculpture, or any other form, is literally magic. And I've just got to agree with that. I absolutely love that. What did I mark here? Some of these, as you notice, are a little bit harder to see through, so in the future I'll probably stick to buying yellow ones, but I really like having these to flag specific sentences. Flow state. Being in the flow, or I was floating, the team followed the lead and named it a flow state. I think I really liked the use of that term, and I wanted to research its use a little bit more. I am a fan of words and terms and way things are phrased, so sometimes I will just flag that. Anything that catches my attention. If it stands out to you, it's a good thing too when reading certain books. If something stands out to you but you're not sure why, mark it down anyways, because maybe it'll come to you later. This section. Okay, so what did he call this? This was art, but yeah, so it's not really labeled, but it's a section about money, and it states here that money is energy and its exchange has meaning, especially today. So that to me was profound. So one of the things you'll find in witchcraft, like one of my beliefs is that everything is energy. And even though I know this, as you learn and you grow and you develop, you have more realizations and more growth. And this to me was just like, oh my gosh, like when I'm doing my financial and my money work and my money exercise and prosperity and stuff, I am still viewing money as a thing, as an object. So even though I view everything as energy and I'm using the elements and I'm doing my work and I have pretty successful financial and prosperity, abundance, magic, but yet to me this was profound. It was like spirit saying, hey, it's time for you to stop looking at it as an object and start looking at it as money. So let's see, what did I put here? Oh, I had not thought of this before, but I 100% agree. While working energy spells around abundance, I was still viewing money as a physical object, not as the energy it is. This is profound. I can't wait to see what my financial spell work looks like going forward. How fun. So that was my thoughts. So pretty much what I just repeated. But this book is about animism, and it does a fantastic job about that, but there are so many layers to it, so many things like this that jumped out to me as I was reading the book. Let's see. Loved this whole paragraph. Let's see, what does it say? To evolve ourselves and heal our traumas, we need to listen with the care of a child, see with the eyes that shine with wonder and curiosity, and give love wholly and unconditionally. Sometimes the best advice when you're feeling silly is to lean into it. Feeling silly is a warning sign from your adult mind that your behavior is risking scrutiny from other adults that may judge you for what you are doing, that you're risking outsider behavior and will get you ostracized. Guess what? Not a single person who has judged me for those reasons has ever had a meaningful or lasting impact on my life. I absolutely loved that sentence. Play is some of the hardest work you can do, and it is in the state of letting go that you begin making the greatest realizations and have the greatest growth opportunities available. Children are hard workers at play, and you can be too. With that said, let's continue. So, I mean, just wonderful bits of information, great advice. I flagged this. I think I liked his manifesting quotes here. I am free from expectations of others. I embrace my fundamental innocence and see the world with wonder. It's really a great chapter. Next, what do we have? This chapter is Rewilding Your Soul. And let's see what I said about this. It says, beautiful exercise. I want to do it again and expand on it. Let's see. True to all his exercises. I love the simplicity of the exercise, easy to remember and redo without having to reread or record and listen in order to perform it again. So I'm finding that with all his exercises, you read it once and then you can just do it. They're nice and simple in that way. And it leaves a lot of room to expand on. This one specifically really did that. To create your own longer guided meditation or to use as a gateway entrance into a shamanic journey, which I found interesting because he speaks about, I wrote this as I was reading it, but he speaks about gateways later in the book. I think he uses a candle for his gateway exercise that he provides. And then we have, oh yeah, so I really liked this, that he mentions this in the book. It says, if you're more familiar with this kind of work, then you know how deep it can go. Adding in meditative practice, especially embodied meditative practice. So I had never really heard someone mention it that way or phrase it that way, embodied meditative practice. And that is what I do. That is one of the main meditative type practices that I do. So I thought that was fascinating that he mentioned it in the book. And then he goes into saying that in this next section, we'll explore some of the embodied methods for ecstasy that will help reawaken the wild within. So, I mean, part of that's probably why I really love the exercises in his book, is because that is the type of work that I do. Going into chapter 7, decompositional magic model. Sorry, it's late in the day here. Fantastic chapter. And then I marked another sentence here. It says, if someone tries to hex you, imagine how useful it would be to connect all that energy, drink it up, and spread it around like fertilizer. I was like, yes. I already do this and I love this. And I like the words he used, how he phrased that. So, you know, to each their own, but I don't hex people. And even in my reversals and banishing type work, what I tend to do is I absorb in the energy and I put it down into the earth to be transmuted and transformed. And then I generally get energy that is more beneficial and helpful from that. So like a fertilizer for your own personal energy. So not that anybody enjoys when somebody throws shade or negativity or, you know, forbid anything worse than that or stronger, but there are ways to actually use that energy. And it's almost like they're like, here, have a free, batch of energy if you know what to do with it and how to work with it. It's not always quick and easy to handle, but it always can always work out in your benefit, actually. People just throwing free energy your way if you know how to transmute that energy. So really love the way he worded that. Okay, then I think I just liked his little phrase here. Twine, wind, and bind, seal, and unite. Twine, wind, and bind, and charge this right. I liked his little chant in that. Let's see, what else did we mark? This section, let's see, I just marked the whole paragraph. Let's see what it's about. Some of the tools needed for this work include an easy to carry bag or satchel, water bottle for drinking, a small bottle in which you can bring water that has been consecrated as offerings. I do that. I love using blessed or consecrated or charged water as an offering to nature when you're out in nature. So he actually just gives a really nice long paragraph there with tools to use for going out and working with spirit. Great section on spirit allies, land whites, and just this whole section. And then he goes into a nice section here on mythology. Why did I mark this one? Fair folk have particularly Gaelic background and informed folklore, the Gaelic-speaking areas of the world, while I personally use the term fae or fairy to represent certain beings. Oh, I like that he really kind of went into that description. So there are different areas call the beings and energies and entities different things, and he really does a nice job of explaining that. Other work with the dead. This was a great section. This whole section, it's a couple pages long. Sorry, hitting the camera there. Chapter 9, time. So time, working with time has always fascinated me and intrigued me, and I've worked with it in a few little ways. Some of the common ways with like the timing of something, right? But more specifically using time itself, the concept of time is something that I want to dive even deeper into. And let's just see what I wrote here. I love that he included time in this book. Time is a fascinating rabbit hole to go down. I did not mark much. Oh, I changed it from anything to much because as I read the chapter more, I started marking things, of course, specific in this chapter, as I would like to reread and put some deeper thought and meditation on this subject. Concept of time and working with it calls to me, and I want to dive deeper. So he really touches on it very, very nicely. Really enjoyed this whole chapter. I think there was a couple of things I ended up tabbing, and let's see what those were. Like I said, I read this book over the course of a few months as I was tabbing these, and I didn't really go back over it again before I did the review here. To some people, this exercise will feel identical to meditation. For others, there will be a subtle difference. It really depends on your personal experience and what you've learned on your path and how you've been taught. I loved the way that he put that, going back to his earlier phrase of the experiential meditation, because I am a solitary eclectic witch, so I pull things from everywhere, and I do a lot of meditation and a lot of spirit work, and a lot of the teachings that I get aren't necessarily from an in-person human teacher. And so a lot of this, like here, what he's talking about is you can go through a meditative exercise like a journey meditation and just be going through that and get a lot out of it. But as you get more experience, and if you do spirit work and if you do divination at all, your meditations can turn more into a journey, like a shamanic style journey of sorts. There's a lot of different terms for it: crossing the hedge crossing, path working, different ways of saying it. But there are different various levels of it. So a lot of times the meditation spirit can work with you in that meditation, and you actually will receive messages through your meditation. So I just really love that they touched on that in this book that way, because I do that. These 3 paragraphs are great. Section about time, so that's one I'll go back and reread. It's got a lot of really good information. I mean, I don't want to give the whole thing away, but as you can see, this book just really excited me. There's a lot of like, oh my gosh, yes, this, and I need to start working on this again, and new perspectives on things as well. So really a fantastic book. What did I write here? Oh, finding the gateway. I said, wait, what? Interesting. Why? Oh, I can't read my writing. Oh, why not strawberry? So he put a sentence in here that was so random, out of nowhere. It says, use whatever color appeals to your sense of magic and mystery. It's fine if you'd like to have incense, but make sure it's not strawberry. I really want to know the story behind that. Why not strawberry? Like, is there a reason to not use strawberry scented incense? Like, I really want to look into that and find out, like, is there like a legitimate reason, or is there some like really hilarious story behind that I really kind of wish I knew? So that was funny. And then also, this is where he talks about finding the gateway, and he gives a really nice exercise using a candle to basically find, he's calling it, the gateway of you've got an altered state of consciousness. You are in a meditation and going from what is just an imaginary world in your mind, where you are imagining things and going through a meditative state, and crossing that gate or crossing that hedge or crossing, there is this moment where it turns into this shamanic style like journey. And he actually gives an exercise for using a candle to help people learn how to do that. And I thought it was fascinating that he used a candle, because I love candles, and I love fire. I'm fire sign, very fire and water signs mostly. But I found, for me, like, I just put that it was interesting because my first gateway was through music. So a lot of this type of work for me, I didn't actually learn from a book. Like, I didn't even know shamanic journeying was a thing until after I was already doing it, and I found a book talking about it. Because for me, it was going from a meditative state with music, and then it turned into basically a shamanic journey, and then I started practicing that, and then the tools and the resources I needed to understand and practice that more and deeper came at a later time. So I just thought it was interesting that he used a candle. I think that's fantastic. It's a great exercise. But I just also wanted to note that you could, there are other ways that might come naturally to you. What did I put here? Oh, I put yes, and this deserves much deeper thoughts. So there's a lot of things in this book that, even stuff that I haven't marked, that he does a very excellent job of simplifying it and being very clear and concise, where you can then thoroughly research it deeper if it's not something that he's gone into great depth about. So he touches on, you know, all the important things and things that he chooses not to go deep into, he does it very well in like 1 or 2 sentences. It says, there's a certain amount of skepticism and rational thought that helps keep us anchored. And then there's the kind that shuts doors. Assess where you're at on the spectrum of skeptical inquiry versus full disbelief. I mean, that is just such a valid, important, and true point. And it really does deserve some deeper thought on that. I'm going to do some meditation work and some journaling on that. Okay, so the Witch's Sabbath. So I'm really glad he put this in there. I'm just going to go ahead and read my notes because I think I summed it up pretty well. I love reading on the Sabbath, though it is not part of my practice and I don't feel called to it. It is one of the main practices that separates my practice from traditional witchcraft. While not called to participate in it, I do feel called to learn of it and understand it more. I liked seeing it in this book. I'm not personally, these are just some personal notes. I'm not sure if this is a block because of a religious upbringing or simply not part or destined to be part of my practice. I think it is the later. I am content not participating in the Witch's Sabbath and super happy to just study and learn about it and its history. Lack of participation has not hindered or blocked my magical growth in any way. So I thought it very important just to mention that. Like, that is pretty personal to my practice. But in case there are other witches out there who, you know, may really resonate with everything in a book like this, but then be like, well, I don't really want to do the Witch's Sabbath. Like, there are so many different types of witchcraft, and being eclectic, I am able to pull really what works for me and leave what doesn't. But it also, in studying and learning these things, it's important to ask questions like this. Well, is it because of my upbringing? Is there a block or is it not? And be able to face that and go, okay, is this something I'm going to work on in the future but not now? Or is this just, no, it's just not for me. So these are the thoughts that go through my head as I'm reading sections like this. And I just thought, you know, that I would go ahead and share that in case there are other witches out there. This author, by the way, does a fantastic job of really telling you also within the book that if something's not for you, just, you know, leave it. So, and that is fine. Great. This whole section, I loved it. I love the way he worded it. What else do we have? Sorry, this is a long video. It's just, I really got a lot out of this book. I really enjoyed it. Oh, I put that I love this, and it's very good that he mentions it. What did he say? This experience is slightly different because you are making a commitment to yourself and the beings and spirits who embody the craft that you are now and ever shall be, a walker of hedges and a witch. There are variations on what that means. Terry Pratchett famously said, the real world for a group of witches is an argument. But as far as I am concerned, if you've come this far, you've earned it. So, you know, again, he goes into that, you know, it looks different for everybody. Let's see what else. Oh, this is the one thing that I was like, wait, what? Okay, so maybe I don't agree with 100% of everything he says, but, you know, to each their own. He's just got a comment in here that says, we don't need more light workers. We need more compassion workers who are listeners. And I was like, wait a second. And I was like, we can have both, you know, to each their own. So I am an eclectic witch, but I am also a light worker. So I do find that, again, one of the reasons I tend not to lean heavier towards traditional witchcraft is, you know, this stuff. They don't, you know, they don't view themselves, from what I can tell, as, you know, light workers. They're working in the dark, not in a bad sense at all. But I was just like, I'm like, dude, don't diss on the light workers, man. Like, there ain't nothing. We don't need less of them, but we need more of everything good. I definitely agree. We need more compassion workers who are listeners, who take their magic seriously and aren't preoccupied with over culture's binary moralism and fits a witch in as well as socks on a snake. Yeah. So, I mean, it is well said. I'm just, you know, I was like, whatever. All right, let's move on. Okay, so this is one of the last sections that I marked. And this is really a controversial subject that he very touches on very well. He says, the witchcraft I practice runs the spectrum from black to white and back again with a happy little rainbow in the middle. I love how he wrote that. And he really goes into, when he touches on the banishing, like it's only a paragraph or two, right? Maybe a page worth. He touches on the fact that banishing isn't for everybody. And, you know, you have to really apply your own morals and ethics to it. And everyone's morals and ethics are going to be different. And so it just really got my mind going. So keep in mind, these are just raw thoughts that I put down here. They're not really, they're not refined or anything, but this is the kind of stuff that I love when a book really, you know, triggers my thoughts and I just have notes to put down and things to dig deeper in later. So here's what I wrote on this. I put that this is a tough subject to touch on so briefly in one page worth of information. He did a really great job. It really triggered my thoughts on it, and banishing and light and dark. It's a short section to touch on such a huge subject. As an eclectic witch and light worker, I do practice banishing. I do work with a balance of light and dark, even as a light worker. Just as the moon uses light off the sun, both are entwined. You're not going to have one without the other, the light and the dark. They both exist. They're both there. To me, what you do with the energy is what matters. So transformation into light requires both light and dark. You still you don't have to cause harm with dark. Banishing to you could banish to the earth as opposed to, say, back to a person. One of the other things I didn't note here is if you are concerned about, as a witch, of sending something back to sender, and you are concerned about if it's going to be harmful to them, if that is a concern of yours, there are ways to work your spell work around things that you can leave it in the hands of the universe. It's like, if this is going to benefit that person's soul for growth and learning and help them to send this really hard thing they've thrown at me back at them, then, you know, do it. Otherwise, you can send the energy down into the earth to be transmuted. There are a lot of creative ways that you can work around that. You can still send things back if it's going to have a positive benefit on their soul, the person that is sending negativity towards you. So there are lots of different ways to do it, you know, and then there's others who don't have any problem sending things straight back to people or hexing, and that's perfectly, you know, within their personal practice. What are their beliefs? What do you believe? So I put that because of that, the definition for dark is very important here. And in here, you know, referring to dark as black, dark as in shadow work, dark as in goddess, dark as in death and rebirth, dark as in subconscious, dark as in primal energy. So if you're working with dark or blackness in that sense, you very much still could use that as a light worker working with the dark energy to transform things to light, but not necessarily dark as evil, or evil's probably the wrong word, but dark as like vengeance or maleficence, or just like really negative energy. So when you're reading things like this, it's important to apply them to your morals and your ethics and your standards, and what are your definitions of these words, and also, are you using the words in the same definition that the author is, because that can really help you understand what the authors are saying. And so I put here that working with dark doesn't mean working with evil, and it doesn't necessarily mean hexing someone or hurting them either, though some choose that, and that's just not my personal path. But he really did go into this in here, saying that there are certain things that he won't do in his practice. He touched on it very, very well. It's just this section, he wrote it so well that it really got my mind going on that topic. And I love that, because I will dive even further into this at a later date. So let's see. So going through here a little bit further, and then I just put a little note at the end that I already do much of what's shared in this book, yet there was a ton of information that was intriguing and new concepts to explore. It is a fantastic book for the beginner and adept alike, and that I absolutely loved it. Interestingly enough, a lot of the information that I tabbed maybe wasn't necessarily specific about the animism, so I will touch on it and say that all his information in here about animism is fantastic. He shares some amazing stories in this book, so really worth the read. Absolutely love this book. If you like this format and you like me sharing all my tidbits and the things that stood out to me personally as a reader and a witch for reading this book, let me know down in the comments. I would love to know if others are finding value in that. As always, be blessed. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching. I will see you all next time.